Welcome to the very first episode of Decentralizing Mind Control. My name is Jeff Hammond, and this is my show. I am going to start with an introduction and explain what the purpose of the show is. Um, the main purpose of the show is so that I could do my part to fight against global tyranny. To do my part to better the world. And I'll start by explaining why I think this is the best way. Um, uh, Literacy, it's a step above language. Language is so essential. Think about babies that don't have language. They have such a hard time communicating, and because of that, they have a hard time taking in information and relaying information out, and they're limited in how they can get around the world. A full-grown adult human being usually knows how to speak a language, and they can communicate better. It's a form of input and output of information. It's very useful. But literacy, a step above language, it's an ability to have another way to input and output information, and it increases your capability to succeed at whatever you want to do. It makes you more effective at anything. It empowers you to have literacy. So much that at certain times in the past, there were groups of people who were targeted for oppression, and because they were targeted to be oppressed, it was forbidden to teach them literacy, to teach them how to read and write. So the more literacy you have, the more power you have, because you have more ability to take in information, which could be used wisely, and also to share information with others. But in the modern day, most people have the literacy to the level where they can read and write, but there's even a higher degree of literacy that the truly effective people have skills to do, and that's using the internet, social media. To be proficient with social media, it is equivalent to literacy for the modern day, and it empowers you. If you want to share information, you can do it much more effectively. You can do it exponentially by using the internet. The internet's a wonderful tool. It can be used and has been used to brainwash society, but it could be used to unbrainwash society by teaching truth instead of lies. We have the information at our fingertips to look up whatever we want. Just a few decades ago, people would have to go to the library and check out books. It was so much more inefficient. Now we have the power of all the libraries in the world almost right at our fingertips. And if something's so important we want to share it, we can use the internet to do that as well. Also, there truly is a information war going on. The global government is getting very tyrannical, and I'm recognizing that I've recognized it's a turning point for humanity coming up very soon. The United Nations has declared they plan to accomplish their Agenda 2030. That's right now is 2024. There's only 5.5 more years until that, when they want to have complete tyranny and totally enslave the world, have the ability to put microchips in our brains and all kinds of horrible things. But the internet, which is used to poison people's minds, is also available for people to use wisely. It's a tool that could be used for good just as it could be used as evil. Well, it's available to us. We could turn things around. I think the future of humanity isn't going to be what it has been for thousands of years, some mix of slavery and freedom. I think it's going to be either complete tyrannical slavery or freedom. Humanity can be free, and things like war and crime and poverty can all be ended. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, like how I've come to figure out what's going on in the world. Ever since I was a child, it was kind of automatic for me to value freedom, to know that everyone deserves to control themselves. No one should take control over the next person and tell them what to do. I never liked the idea of police because they punish people for victimless crimes. I really thought that's not a crime if there's not a victim. When the police are victimizing someone, that's the crime. Even though I didn't like police and I respected freedom, I was conditioned from birth to think that we can't go without government. Government is necessary, and there's always going to be some government in the world, and the American government is the one that allows the most freedom. We were the ones to declare independence from kings and queens a long time ago, and I truly believe that the United States of America, the government of our country, was a force of freedom in the world, and it fought for freedom in the world, even though it's a government itself. I thought that since we declared independence from kings and queens, since we have the Second Amendment, since we have the Bill of Rights, which are a list of things the government will not do to oppress us, since it allows more freedom than the rest of the world, and the whole world is competing for power, I thought it's best if our country has the power, and we've got some imperfections. We don't let total freedom, but if I thought America should rule the world. There's still kings and queens out there. There's terrorists and communists and all kinds of bad things and all kinds of countries that oppress their people worse. America should rule. Or I was even proud that United States was part of United Nations. I didn't realize it was a tyrannical thing, just like the feudalism of ancient times. I thought America should be the one that's the most powerful, to have the most influence in the United Nations. I thought it's good if we're all part of one government. We can't have wars and fight each other. Once we get to that point, then we could try to stop the government from violating rights and start respecting freedom. That was my mentality growing up. By the time I graduated high school, I decided that the best thing I could do to support freedom and also to gain freedom for myself, the quickest way to get independence from my family and be able to move out as soon as I graduate high school, would be to join the military. I joined the Navy. I realized after I was in the Navy, I made a promise to follow orders. I could be ordered to do something that's immoral. I wouldn't do it, but then I'd be breaking a promise, which I don't want to do. I was tricked into making a bad promise. No one should follow orders. They should only follow their conscience. And I was in the Navy for quite a while, for 2.5 years. Luckily, I never was deployed out to sea. If if I was, I would do some essential job that they couldn't do without me, and everything that happens, I would be partly responsible for. If they shoot missiles to some other country and blow people up, that would be on my conscience. I'm glad I never made it to go out to sea. I went to the nuclear power program. It was the longest school they offered, the longest enlisted school. It was about a 2-year school. I signed up for a 6-year enlistment. Um, it was 3 schools: a nuclear power school, a electrician school, and a prototype nuclear reactor. I got to the end of that program, and I got kicked out of that school. I got into trouble, and they sent me to the next longest school, the advanced electronics program, and I got to the end of that school, and then someone left a roach of pot in my ashtray of my car, and they found it, and I ended up getting kicked out. It was 2001, right after the 9/11 thing happened. They still had zero tolerance. Actually, it was before the 9/11. When I got in trouble and when I was waiting to be kicked out, the 9/11 attack happened. After I'd already served a month in the brig and I only had a few weeks left in the Navy. I went free after that. After I got out of the Navy, I still thought that, I was mad at the government. I thought they kicked me out for something I didn't do. I still thought that government would always be around. I started to admit that I don't like government. I don't want it to be around. I wish I could do something about it, but I probably can't. So I should just stay out of politics. I don't even want to vote. I don't want to contribute to the government. I already had the same idea about voting as I do now. I saw how I didn't even think it out so much. I just thought it's pointless. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to. I thought if you vote, it's like you're playing the game. You're binding yourself to the outcome. You're participating. So whatever outcome is, whether it's the one you voted for or the other one, you kind of agreed to that by participating. That's why I didn't want to vote. Now I know even more. I see that voting is the hope that you could convince the majority of the people to choose your candidate over the other candidate. But I see that if that's a valid effort, if it's worth trying to convince the majority of the people of something, instead of convincing them to choose one psychopath to rule us over the next psychopath to rule us, why not convince the majority of the people to not allow psychopaths to rule us? That's the idea that I have now. And I think everyone should be speaking out over the internet instead of voting. And after several years of just not participating in the government, avoiding participating in the government any way possible. If you could get out of jury duty, do it, etc. Then I thought, you know what, maybe the Libertarian Party has a good idea. Maybe you could infiltrate the government from inside. I still don't think it's good to violently overthrow the government, even though I think it's something that we should abandon. Humanity would be much better off without it, but if I'm not going to go try to shoot up a police station or anything crazy, and I discourage anyone from doing that. It wouldn't be effective, and even people who work for the government. I used to be one of them. They could change their mind and get out of the government. I kind of compare modern times to like a zombie movie, but in a way it's kind of a fun zombie movie. Because, some of the zombie movies, you gotta just kill the zombies. That's the only option. It's exciting, but In real life, that's sad. There are people who used to be your loved ones. I've seen some other zombie movies where uh, there's some antidote, there's a cure, and you could save the zombies and bring them back to being a regular human instead of a, a zombie enemy of humanity. And that's what it's like. A lot of people are serving the government and serving a force of evil, but they could stop. Um, Honestly, if I hated everyone who supported the government, I would hate everybody, even my former self. And none of my friends or family or anybody I know in real life agrees with me. I try to explain to them my point of view, but they're conditioned by society to just reject truth. Uh, Even if it's provable knowledge, they'll throw away knowledge to cling on to belief. That's a false belief. They don't want to admit it's false. Um, I actually voted Libertarian um, for the second time. The first time I voted when I was 18, when I was in the Navy, I think I voted for Al Gore, actually. I was never a Democrat or Republican. And then with Hillary and Trump, everyone was telling me, you've got to pick one or the other, uh, or else, well, if you don't pick Hillary, it's going to be your fault that Trump's in office. If you don't pick Trump, it's going to be your fault if Hillary's in office. And I voted for Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate. But since then, I haven't been voting. I really think it's better to vote against voting by not voting. Um, but still, I haven't really done anything about trying to change the fact that government's a form of slavery, it's a form of mind control, and it's ruining humanity. I just tried to uh, do my best to thrive and survive in the situation that exists. But um, I think besides doing that, I could do my part to change things. And I think it's essential that everyone does their part. I think if they do, it can be turned around. But uh, the majority of the people have to reject a lot of lies that are commonly accepted. And it's a long shot. They've been conditioned intentionally um, to reject new information. Um, I've heard a description of the word sovereignty, and that has something to do with the reason I named the channel Decentralizing Mind Control. Um, Sovereignty, it's from two Latin words put together. One of them means super, and the other is reign. Reign means the same as it does in English, to rule, and super means above. So it means above reign or above rule. It means someone who can't be ruled, someone who doesn't have a ruler. Another word for sovereignty is self-ownership. Or two words, a phrase that means the same thing as sovereignty is self-ownership. And to have sovereignty, it's actually a mutual situation. It involves the way that people relate to each other. So to have sovereignty, you have to have external state of anarchy and simultaneously an internal state of monarchy. Government, it's another thing that's it's made up of I think it's based off of Latin words, but I've heard guberne is the Latin word that means to rule, like govern is the root of government. It's from the word guberne, and mente is a word for the mind, and you put them together, you get government. It literally means mind control. Actually, in my next episode, I've already made episode 2 named The Occult. I talk a little bit about how government accomplishes mind control. I made episode once already, but I stuttered too much. I didn't like the way it sounded, so I'm doing it again. So government is mind control. And mind control sounds like a bad thing, but you need to control your own mind. That's why the channel is called Decentralizing Mind Control. I don't think one person should control the mind of others. I think everyone needs to control their own mind. And that's why the form of government, of mind control that should be practiced internally is monarchy, internal monarchy, and external anarchy. You need to use the internal monarchy, be the one ruler of yourself, and take control of yourself so no one else can rule you, and also so that you practice anarchy. Anarchy is the non-aggression principle along with the self-defense principle. You practice that in dealing with other people. Non-aggression, you don't aggress on them. You don't harm anybody. You have the right to do whatever you want if you don't harm anyone else. That's something that's wrong, and you don't have the right to do something wrong. You don't have the right to harm anyone else. And you don't want the next person to harm you, so you need to defend yourself. You need to defend your own rights and respect the rights of others. That's external anarchy. And since it's a mutual situation, we need to respect each other's rights. We might as well protect each other's rights as well. If you see someone victimizing the next person, you should stand up and get involved and not allow that. But everyone is responsible for their own self-defense, and everyone is responsible not to violate someone else's rights. That's what violence is, the violation of rights. Force against violence is not violence, it's self-defense. So yeah, that's the reason for the name of the show, Decentralizing Mind Control. It's a way of describing sovereignty. And so I was talking before about how I voted Libertarian and then stopped voting again, but I'll talk a little bit about how I started to realize that I should step up my level of literacy and get involved in social media, even though I never really was interested in it. Before, I've always tended to value privacy over attention, but I think it's the right thing to do. Now I'm going to get involved and I'm going to learn about social media. I started to realize that the mainstream media is mostly lies. So I started watching more of the alternative media. I really watched a lot of YouTube videos. YouTube censored a lot too, but at least before it's censored, almost anybody in the world can access it and put out their point of view. I stumbled on one YouTube channel in particular, and then I went to the website associated with that channel that really explained what's going on in the world. It's called What on Earth is Happening. It's by a creator called Mark Passio, and it really explains the big picture about how government came into being in the first place, and really how society is operating in the world. And I learned a lot from it, and also he that's where I got the idea. He pointed it out that this information war is something that affects everybody. We all have to deal with the outcome, whether it's freedom or slavery for the future. We shouldn't sit back and let everyone else do the fighting. We should get involved, and it is an information war. It's not a physical war right now. It might be a physical war eventually if we don't accomplish freedom on the mental level through information. Um, and oh, the other another thing is I could compare it to the situation with voting. Um, with voting, you're you might not even you probably don't even make a difference by doing your one vote, unless it comes down to one vote might make a difference if it's a near tie. So just in case it's a near tie, it's worth voting. Uh, if you want to participate in government, most people who do vote just in case it's a near tie. They want to do their part because, oh, God forbid, what if the bad guy wins the election where the less bad guy would have won the election if they just voted? Um, it's the same thing, except for a little bit less unlikely and a long shot to do what I'm doing and speak out on the internet. Um, I think it looks like the bad guys are winning. Tyranny might win. It might be the United Nations enslaving the whole world, and I really don't want that to happen. Um, if humanity has a chance to win, I think it's going to be a very, very close call. And one person speaking out and inspiring others who might inspire others could really have an exponential effect. And what if the world is enslaved and I didn't try to do whatever I can do? It would really bother me. Like, oh shit, we're all having our neural links implanted right now, and I can't get out of this, but, what if I spoke out on the internet? I could have prevented it. That would really suck. Um, what if it happens anyway? That would suck, but it'd be a little bit less frustrating if I know that I at least tried. I did what I could do to prevent it. But it still can be prevented. It's worth a try. And I really thank Mark Passio for inspiring me. And I've been watching a lot of other videos made by people who he's inspired, and some of them have really encouraged me. I've written comments on their live YouTube videos, and some of them have talked back to me and encouraged me to make more videos. They've watched the video I have up and recommended others watch it, and I really appreciate some good content creators who've encouraged me. Chris Jansen, End Evil. He's got a show called End Evil, and he had one show where he let random people call in. That was a great idea, and that's when I first got introduced to speaking on the internet. I really thank him for having a show like that and letting me join into his show. Also, the Free Your Mind podcast. He's got a really good show too, and he's encouraged me. I've seen the Libercast with Fred Gringas. He speaks French and English. He's Canadian from Quebec. I really want to encourage you to look at all of their videos. Someone who I've never interacted with that I also have been inspired by is Here's the Deal. He's got a great channel. He encourages people to do police auditing, which I think is a good thing to do. And I like the way he describes voting. He says It's the mentality of, I'm going to hate my neighbor because they chose the wrong master. And that's exactly what it is. Well, it's about half hour coming up right now. I'm going to end episode 1. Thanks for watching.